following in Brittany. During the ceremonial phone call, the prefect had murmured something about not bad, and that it was a reasonably good job that Dupin was putting in. That one could certainly talk about some respectable joint investigative successes, in fact. On the 1st of March 5 years earlier, Dupin had reported for his first day at work in Brittany following his unceremonious transfer from the metropolis. Increasingly outlandish tales were developing around the reasons for this transfer. The topic of the current training course, it had been assigned to him personally as a bonus by the prefecture, was conducting systematic and systemic conversations in investigative situations, based on the latest results from academic psychological research, of course. Dupin was downright notorious for his unconventional, undoubtedly highly unpsychological conversations during investigations. They were anything but systematic, or at least not in the usual sense. But taking part in the course was obligatory, and the promotion came with a not very generous but still attractive pay raise. So it was blackmail. This was why Dupin wouldn't have had any problem skipping the introductory meeting today, if only it hadn't fit so nicely with Henri's plans. He had to go to a meeting of restaurateurs near Brest. The two kings were now waddling toward the three gentoos, at which the gentoos appeared to give each other signals with their flippers. They started to move a moment later and dived into the pool in one daring leap. At breakneck speed, doing crazy turns, but most importantly in a provocatively good mood, they scattered, each of them going in their own direction, before abruptly turning around, darting boldly just past each other, and then disappearing into the waterways to other pools. The little show had lasted less than 5 seconds. As soon as the birds who looked so clumsy on land, and who had lost their ability to fly over the course of their evolution, were in their element, they turned into by far the most skillful and swift, buoyant bodies in the aquatic world. They could get up to speeds of 40 kilometers an hour, Dupin knew, streamlined to perfection. They could dive for up to 22 minutes on a single breath, reaching up to 500 meters deep. Dupin read everything there was to read about penguins, and he had these facts and figures at his fingertips. He was particularly impressed by the penguins' sense of direction. They used keen eyes and unrivaled mnemonics to memorize the details of an area many kilometers square under the ice sheet and on the seabed. At any given moment, they knew the location of their nearest hole to the surface, vital to their survival, as it was for a commissaire, too, in a way. Just like the ability to maintain a constant body temperature of 30 degrees Celsius at a perceived temperature of a hellish minus 180 during howling storms, weeks of darkness, and without food, a thought that horrified Dupin. Henri and Dupin had been trying unsuccessfully to keep their eyes fixed on the three gentoo penguins. They were just about to turn away when the three of them shot out of the water behind the two king penguins in one almighty leap. A moment later, they were standing sure-footed on the icy ledge, like an operation out of a film. So the gentoo penguins' scattering had been far from random. They had been planning an ingenious operation. Penguins were unrivaled for teamwork. The two king penguins looked visibly annoyed. For a moment, it seemed as though they were contemplating some aggression. They drew themselves up to their full heights, their bodies ostentatiously tense. The larger one let out a few harsh cries as they did so. But then, just as suddenly, the kings slipped into the water without any fuss, in an almost lazy way, then looked up again, and finally swam away. The ledge where the feedings took place now belonged to the three gentoo penguins. "They know how it's done," Dupin said, and smiled to himself. "In the end, cleverness is strength," Henri laughed. The penguin colony in Brittany was the largest in Europe, but there was something else